Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our virtual meeting in support of the International Day commemorating the victims of acts of violence based on religion or belief. There are continuing acts of intolerance and violence based on religion or belief against individuals. This day reaffirms the purposes and principles enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, in particular, the right to freedom of thought, religion, and conscience.
This meeting is very important as we know that the number and intensity of such incidents, which are often on a criminal nature and on international characteristics, are increasing. And for today's meeting, we will focus on the Tai Jimin unlawful tax case in Taiwan, which seriously violates human rights and oppresses people's right to believe. A group of young people have joined us to voice their opinion on this matter. And so we like to start with the first question, which we have for our youth is, as the youth, how do you envision the world? Do you have any special experiences regarding human rights, freedom of belief, or for the minority cultures? And what beliefs have you taken in from your family, culture, or education? So we now like to welcome the youth, starting with Andrea.
Hi, thanks, Judy. As a youth, I want to see the world move towards a better place. I want to be able to see that the world is progressively becoming more accepting of others and becoming more united. For a few years, I've been traveling with Dr. Hong to the United Nations, and at these meetings, I have the opportunity to talk to people of different walks of life and people who change the world starting in their own communities. This opened my eyes and shaped the way that I began to view the world. I began to view the world a lot differently. I began to see the similarities despite the differences in everyone that I encounter. And the typical human rights that I was privileged to have for my entire life and that I took advantage of were human rights that I realized that some people around the world do not have. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's very important to see the similarities and differences among people and be aware that there aren't human rights all around. So it's very important that you have joined us to talk about this issue so we bring more of these important topics onto the platform. So thank you. And next we'd like to hear from Adrian. Welcome, Adrian.
Okay. I've learned so much from Tai Jimin, but my main point is how it affected me. To start, I've always known to be kind and to help others and to care. However, my actions came from the expectations of everyone around me. Kids are always required to care for others, and I've always been taught to be kind, but were the actions true and genuine? After attending Tai Jimin, I realized that my actions were not only to give and to share my happiness with others, but that I was actually genuinely enjoying the shared moment. Performances were always tough to get perfect, but I've come to realize that the process was always positive, and I enjoyed every moment of it. Spreading love was no longer a chore or my teacher said I should do it kind of thing. It became an action that I performed daily without knowing. So Tai Jimin really benefited me and my actions towards others.
Thank you, Adrian. Yeah, we never know that a smile that you have or act of kindness can change someone's day. So thank you for sharing that. And now I'd like to hear from Sydney.
Hi, so throughout high school, I wrote for the school newspaper, and so freedom of belief, which is kind of like freedom of speech and freedom to voice your thoughts, has been always really important to me. And so, yeah, that is kind of like my experience with the whole idea of freedom of belief and just being able to, like, we write a lot of opinions articles, and I've been lucky, and we've been lucky to be able to voice our thoughts without being silenced. And I think that that's a privilege that not everyone has. And I think that it's important that we work towards fighting for that for everybody. And throughout the past 4 years, so I've always been like an avid reader. And throughout the past 4 years, I've noticed an increase in diversity in literature. and media and entertainment. And that's been really empowering to see. I remember that growing up, like minority cultures were not as represented in the books that I read. A lot of the popular series that got me into reading, now looking back, I realized that like Asian Americans or Asians and other people of color were not really represented in those books. And now we're seeing like an increase in other voices being introduced into the entertainment, whether it's like movies or books. And that's like been really empowering to see. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Sydney. Yeah, like you said, a lot of people are starting to get their opportunities to be heard around the world. And now with technology, I think it's great that we can also voice our own opinions, but also help others to be heard around the world. So thank you, Sydney. And next, we'd like to hear from Andrew Kuo.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I've done speech and debate at my school and also at my Chinese school. And throughout the process, you get to see both sides of either story, and you kind of come to learn that every situation is multifaceted, and it's really dangerous to just go ahead with one story without other voices being represented. And especially in the modern day, there's still a lot of underrepresented people in the world and a lot of injustices, and the way to really fight back against that is to allow everyone's voices to be heard.
Thank you, Andrew. You know, so far our speakers have talked about these underrepresented people and how their voices aren't heard. And I kind of want to take it back to ourselves to think back on maybe there are times when we haven't really heard the other person, what they wanted to say. So I think it's important to look at it from that perspective as well, so we can actually really put these into practice and be examples of how we can push platforms like this further for not just ourselves, but also like the government, so they can do something for the people as well. So thank you, Andrew, for pointing that out. Next, we actually like to hear from Allison. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Judy. So as I grow older and become more cognizant of what's going on in the world around me, I find that it is somewhat polluted with injustice, hate, and violence. There are people who spend their lives trying to make a difference, but their voices are rarely truly heard. However, it gives me hope and really motivates me to take action when I see all the members of Tai Jimin coming together and being so dedicated to spreading positivity and encouraging others to just take a moment to think, listen to their conscience, and breathe instead of always just rushing through their days somewhat selfishly without a single thought of self-reflection or self-awareness.
Thank you, Allison. Yeah, we hope more people will take a moment to kind of reflect on what's going on and then go back at it again with a clear mind. So thank you. And now we'd like to go over to Evelyn.
Thank you, Judy. As a youth, for me, I envision the world to be a very fair and happy place where people can trust and love each other. And I'm lucky to have a family, and also I've been in an education system where I've been encouraged to take a stand in the community and help others and help change the world to the one that I would be happy and proud to live in, starting from maybe taking some of the privileges that we've grown up with and trying to help people who may not have had those resources be able to get some of the same opportunities. So recently I took on a project to help students entering the workforce as well as unemployed people find jobs with LinkedIn. I used to be an ambassador for LinkedIn at my school, so I took the opportunity to share all of the tips and tricks that I learned to help others. So I spoke to people of many ages, different backgrounds, who speak many languages. And I'm very thankful that I have this experience where I got to use some of the positive energy that I've gotten from Tai Jimin and been able to care about others, to listen to their stories, to help them the best I can, and again, to use that positive energy to try and encourage others.
Thank you, Evelyn. So some of the speakers have already touched on what they've gained from Tai Jimin is the positive energy that they get themselves, and then with that, they're able to help more people. So I think it's wonderful that we've brought this, that kind of aspect onto our lives as well. So thank you, Evelyn. Now we'd like to go to Andrew Chung.
Thank you, Judy. As many speakers have said before, there's a lot of underrepresented groups and people. And to touch up on that, like growing up in America, not necessarily in my area because I grew up in a pretty Asian population, but once you go outside of this bubble that we grow up in, it's the Asian Americans that are usually the minority group. And we grow up with these stereotypes all around us, and eventually these stereotypes are so built in that when Asian Americans want to speak up about them, they're already so commonly used that people don't believe that they're even stereotypes. And so I feel like people should have more representation and to show like the injustices and racism that is everywhere around us.
Thank you, Andrew. And I think this platform is great because it allows us to kind of step out of our own bubble and to see what else is out there. And I think that's very important for us to always learn, always try to see what more is there that we can do, what more is there that we don't know. So thank you, Andrew. Next, we'd like to go over to Nicole.
Hi. Yeah, so I guess just one thing I really wanted to emphasize is that I envision the world that I want to live in is one that human rights really is just a given. So something that when I think about human rights that I really think about is my father, like coming to the United States in the 1960s as an Asian American. He was pretty much treated as any white man would be treated. And because of that, he had gained and learned so much because of the education system and the opportunities he was given. And being his daughter, I was kind of able to use the similar mindset that he had and pursued, whatever it is I wanted. I never felt like I was being limited in any way, and I felt like people were treating me fairly, and I had pretty much a lot of the opportunities that my peers were given. So I think that for me is really like an ideal community, an ideal world that we will live in. And to go a little bit beyond that, to me, the world that I want to see us progressing into and becoming is one that we're actually like continually improving in. So recently we've seen so much with like the Black Lives Matter movement and really the emphasis on treating minorities fairly, outside of Asian Americans. And I think there's still a lot to be done, but it gives me hope that there are organizations like Tai Jimin and things like that to kind of promote this process.
Thank you, Nicole. I really like what you said about human rights would be given for everyone. You actually reminded me of something that happened to me when I was in college. I was interning downtown in LA, and I had to travel through the train. And then on the way, there would be quite a few homeless people there. And at first, in my mind, I'm kind of like, I'm just going to stay away from them, steer away, just do my thing. And then at the same time, I was volunteering my time with Tai Jimin and all that. We were promoting human rights and inviting people to endorse for a declaration that promotes human rights. And one day I'm just kind of reflecting myself from my life every day and also what I was doing as I was volunteering. And I realized I was talking about human rights, but I wasn't practicing human rights. So one day when I walked to work and I saw the homeless guy again, I decided not to look away. I smiled at him. And in return, he said, "You have a beautiful smile." And that's when I realized that when I was trying to promote human rights, they actually needed with myself, not only my actions, but in actuality deeper, starting with my thoughts. So I think it's great that we have that goal together, that human rights could be enjoyed by all people, not just only specific groups. So thank you, Nicole, for bringing that up. Next, we'd like to welcome Matthew.
Hi. My name is Matthew Chen, and I'm a Taiwanese college student studying in Boston. As an international student highly exposed to both Taiwanese and US cultures, the importance of human rights and social freedoms have been embedded in me through my education. Understanding the long history and violations of human rights seen through discrimination, exploitation, and corruption of various governments not only allows me to see how ignorance and selfishness manifested among those in power, it further demonstrates the irresponsibility and therefore fragility of the core government system. History is about learning from past mistakes and making more correct decisions to better the society. And naturally, I assume governments would learn and reform to prevent the downfall and implosion of a society. As a youth, I envision the world as one that keeps evolving to reach a balance with humanity, to be more inclusive of all the differences among communities. And I believe that a good government is one that represents its people the best. It organizes the society to maximize its efficiency and growth rate. A well-designed and operated government takes care of all the differences among the society to unite the nation. It doesn't matter if you're a part of the majority or a minority group that is unique. The government should consider all perspectives of the society. A good government is also transparent. It allows people to understand how meaningful each decision is and how every dollar of tax is used. Being transparent also helps people trust its government, which greatly strengthens the society. And finally, a good government recognizes mistakes and solves them. We often hear that learning from mistakes is the best way to learn. So when governments make mistakes, it is their responsibility to apologize and fix their actions. The collective government system needs to be confident, but yet humble, to propel the society with full honesty and transparency. This way, its people can be efficiently represented to steadily develop the nation. Thank you.
So thank you, Matthew. And yes, we need to learn from history and evolve, and it's very important that the government needs to provide that transparency for people to feel safe living in certain areas. So thank you, Matthew. And next, we'd like to go to Bobby.
As we can see, the world we live in nowadays, it's really a big mess. Countries make decisions based on political benefits, and there's conflicts all around the world happening all the time. You know, sometimes I just ask myself, why can't we just put down the pride, put down all the greed, put down all the hate, and progress as humanity in a healthy cycle, right? Because right now, we are just repeating history, all the bad things happening again and again. And we are really not learning how to progress and become better. Recently, we had the Black Lives Matter movement going on in the world, and then currently, right now, something that's happening is the Act 1219 movement, which is happening in Taiwan. And because it all happened because that the Taiwanese government aren't even listening to the people. They're abusing, violating human rights, and it's something that we cannot tolerate. The people of Taiwan, we cannot just watch the government, to bully us, bully the citizens, and take away our rights. We have to stand out and fight back and get our rights back, or else how can Taiwan be a democratic country? From my experience and from my view is that we really need to understand how to live with one another through respect and having enough knowledge about what's going on in this world, or else you can't just give a comment without even knowing what's going on or how someone feels. And it's really down to caring and understanding, and it all happens in education, which is why education is such an important thing, because we need to teach people how to love each other, how to understand each other, in order for them to grow and become better.
Thank you, Bobby. Yes, very important that we put down hate that we have, hate maybe that we've learned or gained throughout our experiences, but we need to put it down, put it aside, and progress as humanity and really learn from history, because as we've known that history tends to repeat itself. So thank you, Bobby. And now we'd like to go over to Ellen.
Hi, thanks Judy for the introduction. I'm Alan, and I am going to be starting university at UC Davis. And I think what I would envision the world to be in maybe 10, 20 years from now is that the people of the world will become much more cooperative, and the people of the world will start to listen to their moral compass, their conscience. And it's just been over the last few decades that humanity has really become a globalized species and civilization, and that we started to realize that we actually had the capacity to impact all around the globe. Hundreds of years ago, perhaps a single nation can only affect the resources or the people of that specific area. But now, because of globalization, because of information technologies, we are all more and more connected than ever before, which also means that our actions also have consequences that vibrate and go across the entire globe. And that I think in the future, in order to continue to sustain this planet that we are on, in order to sustain perhaps the ways of life that we have come to take as to be normal, we have to start cooperating and to have a conscience. Because perhaps as a species, as humanity, we are able to become much more advanced through competition. But I feel like this is the time when that competition and the need to fight with each other and to create factions has to start to change towards cooperation. And it's just the simple realization that we are all, the same species with the same goals. We all want human rights and some sort of guarantees of security, life, and general welfare. And I mean, I would like to just end on a note that as we see in the past few decades, science itself is very neutral. It doesn't care whether or not it is used for weapons of mass destruction. It doesn't care if it's used to provide relatively clean energy to the world. It wouldn't care if it's used as a medium to spread misinformation to the world. It also doesn't care if it's used as a medium to spread positivity to all corners of the earth. But what ends up dictating how we as a species would use this technology into the future is not the technology itself, but conscience of every single human individual. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Alan, for sharing. And I really liked the aspect that you brought up about collaboration and technology. So actually this week, for the past 5 days, I was able to participate in a virtual summer camp with children whose parents are affected by cancer. And like you said, technology is advancing every single day. So who would have thought that we were able to do a camp online and through Zoom? So especially like spreading positivity on a community level, on an individual level, is the right way to start if we want to impact the world on a global level in a positive way. And so thank you all for sharing. And I just want to take a quick moment to let's all picture a world where individuals are open to all kinds of cultures, where communities are supportive of all kinds of groups, and countries are friendly to other countries, and they're all built upon trust and unity. So I feel like for me, that would be an ideal world to live in and experience. And although many changes have still yet to be made to achieve that, like Nicole has mentioned, you are all constantly working towards that goal and turning those beliefs into actions. And with the guidance of Dr. Hong, Tai Jimin Case have traveled to 101 different countries over the past 20 years, spreading love and peace around the world. And leaders from all corners of the globe have been touched by Dr. Hong and his beautiful message. They're encouraged to make a positive impact in their respective areas and to foster a growing sense of conscience on a global level. So right now, let's hear from the leaders from all walks of life to share their experiences with and respect for Dr. Hong and Tai Jimin.
You know, it's so difficult to touch the heart of an individual, but Tai Jimin can really touch the heart of the individual. Tai Jimin teaches us how to love, how to move from war to peace, how to bring the peace that we have inside us. You really touch my life.
Let me tell you, it's very emotional. And for me, it's been a great experience. Having a World Summit for Love and Peace, this is what the world needs. So I want to commend you, and I want to somehow show you my support and the support of the Dominican people.
Dr. Hong himself should be real proud of, and I think he should be commended.
In this world of today, there is too much strife, too many wars among nations and within nations, too much hunger, too much disease, and all this cannot be conquered unless, as the message of Dr. Hong is, there is love and there is a peace.
We really appreciate this ceremony because it has to do with the most important values that my country has embraced.
A very simple golden round-shaped bell like this can change the world if our heart goes with that sound, the sound of world peace and love.
Truly, truly inspiring, and I hope that I will be able to live to the message that Dr. Hong has brought us tonight. Thank you.
Well, I think he's a very great man, considering the fact that he is dedicating his whole life just to spread the message of peace, using his resources, his energy, his time to go into this noble activity.
The efforts of this organization to inspire humanity into truly treading a path that will be sustainable and that will promote well-being for all life forms and happiness for the human being.
Because there's a sincerity of purpose, a sincerity of direction, a genuine concern for humanity to ensure that we care for each other.
Tai Jimin understands this, that our conduct must mirror our words, must match our sentiments, and examples of the kind before you today are pointers in the direction in which we should travel.
This is an academy, it's one of the very important academy in the world. We're gonna join this academy hand in hand, move together to preach the word of love and peace all over the world.
Geral, nos países africanos que se encontram neste momento ainda em guerra, como eu disse em Taipei, quando eu estive na vossa sede, que eu disse para que as crianças encontrem de novo o sorriso. E ao Dr. Cole e a sua esposa, todos os...
I thank him, and he had a place in our heart in Bahrain, and he will remain, I will remain behind him for this support.
I enjoyed talking with Dr. Hong, and especially enjoyed his presentation. And I think it's profoundly important and significant that we're reaching, especially through the new modes of being able to do this over the internet, so many young people whose conscience can be inspired. His words resonated with me today.
The Mayor of the District of Columbia does hereby proclaim March 22nd, 2000 as Tai Jimin Qigong Academy Day in Washington, D.C., and we welcome these international ambassadors of peace and goodwill.
So Mayor Harris welcomes Dr. Hong, and he declares September 16th, today, as Dr. Hong Day, and we congratulate you.
Tom Bates, Mayor of the City of Berkeley, hereby proclaim August 5th, 2005 to be Federation of World Peace and Love Day in the City of Berkeley.
Dr. Hong is doing a wonderful job, and for the past so many years, he is working ceaselessly to bring about peace and harmony in this world.
The Buddha befriended 3 young men, very rich young men, very spoiled, young men. And one day, the house where these 3 young men are living is on fire. But the 3 young men are so spoiled that they don't manage to realize the house is on fire and they are going to die. So the Buddha tries to figure out how to save these young men, and he realizes talking to them is not useful. They will simply not understand. So the Buddha sends 3 beautiful chariots, very beautiful, and he entices the young man to go out of the home which is burning and board the chariots. They don't realize the home is burning, but they like the chariots. They are beautiful and nice, so they board the chariots and get saved. Our world is burning. There is a lot of smoke, a lot of fire. We are at serious risk to die. We don't realize it. If somebody will talk to us, we will not understand. So that's exactly the mission of Dr. Hong and Tai Jimin and Phopal. Let's board the chariot Dr. Hong is offering to us. Let's board the chariot and get saved. I believe that's the lesson of this event. That's the lesson of the Day of Conscience. That's the lesson of Tai Jimin. So thank you, Dr. Hong, for offering to us the chariots. And let's all board the chariots, get saved from our burning house. That's our world.
だから彼らの場合はやっぱり本当に一つの気持ちが結集してね、すごくこう見てる人にすごく感動を与えられるものがね。
So we have seen that this movement of conscience and the message of love and peace have truly touched the hearts of world leaders. And I remember my first time at the United Nations, I was overwhelmed by how many ambassadors and other world leaders there were, because they're all doing such amazing things with what they can. And when the summit started and we talked about the importance of love and peace, I remember one specific ambassador shared that he has never talked about love and peace in a United Nations conference room. And that time was especially unique because there were so many other leaders that were joining efforts to engage in a deep conversation about actions they could take to create a better future. And I also love the time when the family of the ambassador of Kiribati came and performed a dance and song from their culture. So in this process, the youth and I as well have learned and gained so much. And now we'd like to hear our speakers share about what they have learned from Tai Jimin, and how does practicing Qigong at Tai Jimin, participating in cultural performances, and or attending world conferences benefit and affect you. So first, we would like to welcome Evelyn.
Thank you, Gill. For me, practicing Qigong and speaking with our brothers and sisters at Tai Jimin has affected me because it's reminded me of the importance of conscience in my daily life. It reminds me to spread positivity to those around me and not fight negativity with more negativity. It also reminds me to be happy, to have very simple and pure intentions, and to minimize my daily anxiety, worries, and frustrations. And I think that if everyone acted this way with their conscience in mind and a hope to spread love and peace around the world, then the earth would be a much better place for everyone to live. And Tai Jimin has also taught me to be brave and to stick to what I believe. Tai Jimin has taught me that if I know what I'm doing is right, then I can fearlessly move forward with it. And I think that this is a very important lesson that I've taken away.
Thank you, Evelyn. I definitely agree that positivity is truly something we can all learn about and practice in our real life. So learning to see the silver linings in everything, especially when you face challenges or face stress at school, that's definitely something very important that I have learned as well from Tai Jimin. And next, we would like to welcome Andrew Chung.
Thank you, Gill. What I have learned from Tai Jimin goes beyond what can be explained. But to name just a few things that Tai Jimin has taught me, Tai Jimin has taught me how to act with conscience so that you don't live life with regrets. Every action is done morally and you know that you're always in the right and you're not doing anything that violates anyone else. Being part of Tai Jimin, I participated in many cultural performances, which allowed me to understand more of traditional Chinese cultures. Growing up in a generally pretty whitewashed area, I have very little exposure to traditional Chinese culture. And so being part of Tai Jimin allowed me to have this experience and understand Chinese culture better than many people around me.
Thank you, Andrew. So like Evelyn has also touched upon, you also talked about how conscience is very important, as well as learning Chinese culture from Tai Jimin. And I think that conscience is like the inner voice inside of all of us that tells us like when we do the wrong things, they tell us like we know inside of us that we're doing the wrong thing and that we should follow what's right and act upon what's right. So thank you for sharing with that. And next, we would like to welcome Sydney.
Thank you. So one of the biggest takeaways from Tai Jimin is like the ability to change your mindset from being negative to positive. And it's something that I'm still working on, but I'm actively trying to act like that every day. But I find that like whenever I'm put in a difficult situation or a task that I don't really want to do or an assignment, instead of trying to think of the fact that I really don't want to do it, I try to like switch my mindset and think about it in a more positive light and think about all the how I'm benefiting from it, how others can benefit from it, and it's really helped me approach each task with more heart. And I think a part of this comes from listening to other stories. So at Tai Jimin, we get the opportunity to talk a lot with the members, and every member kind of shares their stories, and sometimes they share about their struggles or their struggles, and it's always really empowering to hear them go through it, and it kind of gives me like hope that whatever I'm going through, I can like get through it because other people have. And being a part of Tai Jimin has also helped me reflect and learn to reflect more and really think about the consequences of my actions and to act with more conscience. I think that that's something that it's important because it's important to know what act less selfishly, to know that your actions can have a bigger impact than just on yourself. And that is something that Tai Jimin preaches, is to act with more of a conscience. And that's something that I'm still working on.
Thank you, Sydney. I can definitely relate to what you said about whenever you face something negative, you try to not think about the negative impacts of it. And I remember that Dr. Hong has said before, like something that I always keep in mind is whenever like I'm doing homework or like facing like school stress, like activities, I always like think of it as a challenge instead of that like task that I have to complete. So changing that mindset really helps a lot. And next, we would like to welcome Edward.
Hello. So ever since I've joined Tai Jimin, I've constantly been taking in and learning everything they have to offer. So Tai Jimin holds many events throughout the years, with activities in the events ranging from performances to speeches. I've participated in a few of these events, sometimes as a viewer and sometimes as a performer. But every time I can confidently say that I've learned something new, whether it be broadening my perspectives or learning more about cultures around the world. And at these events, I've also been given a lot of opportunities to meet people, young and old, a lot of different races, which is always nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Definitely, like during cultural exchanges or participating in other conferences with other world leaders and people from other cultures, that definitely broadens your view and really lets you understand not only the similarities and also the differences among people from all different types of culture and how we can really learn from each other, even if we have differences between us. And next, we'd like to welcome Allison.
So from Tai Jimin, I have learned to be a genuine person with pure intentions, and also I've learned the importance of being true to myself, to act with compassion. And I've learned the importance of attitude and mindset and how to face all situations bravely with the help of my conscience. I've learned how to center myself through meditation, which benefits me most when stress levels are high so that I can make rational decisions throughout trying times. Practicing Qigong allows me to take time out of my technology and academic filled days to self-reflect and really remind myself of what is actually important in life. Being able to feel confident in my decisions because I follow my moral compass has also changed the way I approach different situations. Tai Jimin has also trained me to be hopeful and stay optimistic, especially when circumstances aren't optimal, and to accept that not everything is in my control. I found that with a good attitude, the stresses of life don't seem nearly as severe or frustrating. And after joining Tai Jimin, I have been more motivated than ever to better myself and spread love. I feel that all of these practices that Tai Jimin teaches us pushes us towards the goal of world peace and love for both ourselves and everyone around us. And this process that minimizes bitterness and passes on positivity that Tai Jimin promotes is more important than ever now. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Like you said, and definitely in the era today where technology is so prevalent and so advanced, it's definitely important to take a step back from all the social media and self-reflect, like you said, because it's definitely important to improve and work on your mental and spiritual health all the time. And next, we would like to welcome Michelle.
Hi, I have learned to be wise, patient, and healthy and brave in Tai Jimin. Practicing Qigong at Tai Jimin is beneficial to me because it's good for my body and my mental health. Participating in cultural performances benefits me because it helps me gain experience in performing in front of other people and helps me get over stage fright as well as being shy. Tai Jimin has taught me more about the Chinese culture than in Chinese school. Tai Jimin has taught me about moral values, respect, myself, and more. This makes me a better person both mentally and physically.
Thank you, Michelle. Definitely that about the bravery aspect and gaining confidence through Tai Jimin. I can also relate to that as well. Because since I was younger, when I was during like the Tai Jimin Yan shows, I was always really shy about like going on stage and sharing what I had thought about to the rest of the Tai Jimin Deeds and brothers and sisters. But definitely throughout my years in Tai Jimin, I've also become like more brave and like talk with confidence like you have as well. So I'd like to welcome Andrew Kuo.
Thanks, Gill. So for me, Tai Jimin is really unique because you get to learn about others, but more importantly, you get to learn about yourself. You're able to take a really introspective glance at yourself and find out what your limits are, what your motivations are, and what your values are. And for me, doing cultural performances, putting hours and hours of work into learning how to play the drums or learning how to do the dance or learning how to do lion dancing, you get to see the fruition of all that hard work when you light up someone's face in the audience when they see your performance. And that's what makes it so worth it. And Tai Jimin offers that really unique opportunity, and it's really hard to get that somewhere else. So that's part of the reason, that's like a big part of the reason why Tai Jimin is so special to me.
Thank you, Andrew. And you, as well as many other youth speakers, have mentioned the cultural experience, the cultural exchanges aspect of Tai Jimin And it's amazing to see how you guys are brightening up someone's day in the audience just with your genuine smiles. And next, we'd like to welcome Claire.
Growing up in Tai Jimin, I have been able to broaden my horizons, and it makes me more than a student. At the age of 19, I attended the UNDPI Angel Conference when I was 17, and I have participated in hundreds of cultural performances. All of these are because I am a Tai Jimin Dizi. I went to Ukraine with Shifu to spread love and peace last year when they were having an election. I was surprised that people there don't smile often, and I realized it's because they are living under the fear of war, which causes the people to be worried all the time. They are longing for peace, which is a concept hard for me to understand if I hadn't gone there. This made me realize the importance of conscience and love, which Shifu has promoted for decades. Once at an international forum of love and peace, we sang the song Love, and some of the audiences cried. To be honest, I was a little bit surprised because I thought it was just a song, but it was the power of love that touched them. With the love in our heart, the power we have is stronger than our imagination. A smile, a song, or just a few words can light up the day of someone we met today, and we can change the world. Practicing Qigong cured my atopic dermatitis, and I'm more brave, more positive, and better at time management, because I often have to balance school, friends, and Tai Jimin. Shifu also told us, the people who know how to use their time wisely are the ones with the most time. Shifu not only teaches us how to change ourselves, but also gives us opportunities to be the change. And I am so grateful to be a Tai Jimin Dizi.
Thank you, Claire. Conscience is indeed very important. It gives us courage and allows us to do the right thing. So we hope that the government can also do what is right. Next, we would like to welcome Mitchell.
Hello everyone, I'm here to share my experience in Tai Jimin. I grew up in Tai Jimin in California, and I've been practicing Qigong for about 10 years now. I noticed that Qigong has made me very different from my peers at school. I'm more mature, my ability to handle my work is better, and I don't complain as much. Qigong has also boosted my immune system. I don't really get sick as easily, and I'm overall more energetic than most people. I have participated in many cultural performances. I've performed in California and in Taiwan. The smiles on people's faces when they watch the performance is what makes me enjoy performing. The joy of the audience makes me happy. In November 2018, I traveled to India with my Shifu to attend the International Conference of Chief Justices of the World. This was a life-changing experience because first I had never been to India, and I had also never traveled with Shifu before. The Chief Justices at the conference respected Shifu and Tai Jimin greatly, which made me feel a sense of pride of being a Dizi. They also said that us young people are the future, and that what we are doing as young people gives them hope for the future. This definitely made me believe what I was doing was worth it and important.
Thank you, Mitchell. So good physical and mental health is very important and crucial, and not complaining is something we could all benefit from. Next, we would like to welcome Bobby.
Here at Tai Jimin, I learned to become more calm and confident and always ready to take on challenges that gets thrown in my way. And other than that, there's excellent chances that we have to attend world conference and cultural exchange, to gain more knowledge, to share more knowledge with one another in the world, you know, from other countries and other groups of people. It's something that a lot of people nowadays lack because they're all so concentrated on money, concentrated on materialized things. So they already lost those spiritual things where one another tries to understand why they think that way, why they do these things that way. And it's something that we need to go explore and understand to make ourselves more knowledgeable, because only by doing that we can understand how to treat one another fairly.
Thank you, Bobby. So World Conferences really allows us to have better perspectives so we can grow to be a better person, and especially being considerate of people of all backgrounds and ethnicities. Next, we would like to welcome Emily.
Hi. So 7 years ago when I first joined the academy, it was a life-changing moment, right? Then a couple of years later, when I was old enough to be able to participate in a lot of the cultural performances, when I was able to, spread love, peace, positivity for all sorts of different events, those experiences have definitely left a positive impact on me. Through these cultural performances, I've learned different lessons every time. Ones that can be used in daily life, like self-discipline, time management, like the courage to be on stage. Each performance, it takes hours and hours of practice, and learning to balance that with like family, friends, and just maybe school even, and balancing that with practice was just really a really crucial thing. So time management, and the results from the performances sometimes didn't really meet my expectations. Like I would question why I put in so much effort for such a small audience, but there's always a couple of people that were touched by the message of the event and made the whole thing worth it. So I feel very, very lucky to be able to spread the message of love and peace, spreading positivity to everyone.
Thank you, Emily. And I'm not that old myself, but I remember watching or seeing you grow, or growing with you throughout these past several years. And I can definitely attest to how much more brave and confident you've grown. And lastly, we would like to welcome Nicole.
So I think like just in the last few weeks, I've definitely seen a lot of people in Tai Jimin like just really driving the change they want to see. So for example, with the whole tax situation, we've seen people like writing letters to President Tsai and just trying to make their voices heard within like the Taiwanese community and to the Taiwanese government. And I think that's really inspired me to do the same. And so for me, that means like being a present citizen, and educating myself and reading up on issues that like we face as Americans today. And even something as simple as voting in the next election, I think is something that I've put a lot more thought into and realizing the importance of, just because now that, seeing a lot of this go on within Tai Jimin, I know that like one voice really can change the world, and like me, myself, I can drive the change that I want to see and I want to make happen.
Thank you, Nicole. Definitely all the brothers and sisters of Tai Jimin have been working to fight for justice, especially for a fabricated tax case. So before we move on to the next panel, we'd like to welcome Amber.
Thank you, Gill. So, hi, my name is Amber, and throughout practicing Qigong and performing with my Tai Jimin brothers and sisters, I learned how to be brave. Like many times at school, I got bullied, and then I stood up to myself and I didn't let anything hurt me. Like one time I performed, I built the courage to share my experiences at Tai Jimin with more than 200 people. Another thing I learned from practicing was to focus on one thing at a time. Like before, I always rushed through my work and did 2 things at a time, often getting bad grades on homework or tests. But when I started performing, I learned how to focus on and concentrate on one thing at a time. Throughout the years, my Shifu, Dr. Wang, taught me many lessons that I not only use at Tai Jimin, but at school and my normal life. And all these lessons made me a better person. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. And kind of like Emily, I've also grown with Amber throughout these past few years. So I'm really able to see how much she's grown. And I think she was also like me, who was also super shy to go on stage and share what she was thinking, and now she's here in a panel speaking her mind. So I'm also a Tai Jimin Dizi myself, like I said, and being part of the Tai Jimin family and practicing Qigong has allowed me to better my physical, mental, and spiritual health every single day, and really find inner balance, especially when college can get a little stressful. And I'm truly grateful for Dr. Hong and Tai Jimin because they've become an important part of my identity. So when I learned at a young age about the fabricated tax case instigated by the Taiwanese government, I'm shocked that something so beautiful can end up so twisted with their words. And over the course of 24 years, Tai Jimin Dizis have been protecting their home and their rights, yet the government has been relentlessly passing on false tax bills. Now let's take a look at how much suffering and pain this tax case has brought to Tai Jimin Dizis, as well as how cruel the tax bureau is to other Taiwanese citizens.
24 years ago, we were ordinary people. Innocent civilians shedding blood to reveal a gross injustice. Hey, 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 的一只鸟啊，好啾啾，嘿吼，予阮听着伊半暝。
Why are you practicing Qigong at Tai Jimin?
Tai Jimin is a decent organization.
You got fired. You don't need to come tomorrow.
My Shifu teaches us to do what is right. It's not like what Mida said. There's no gobbling.
That's enough.
I loved my dad very much. He originally was very supportive of my joining Tai Jimin, but Ho Kuan-ren manipulated the media, falsely accusing Tai Jimin of raising goblins. My dad believed it. In fact, Ho Kuan-ren himself is a demon. What he saw was himself.
I'm home.
Take this cursed apple away. Take it away. Walking around every day in that outfit, you're embarrassing us.
24 years are not sure. Unconscionable government officials have kept abusing us. One day, I will make them pay.
Ho Kuan-ren falsely claimed Tai Jimin raised goblins. When I took my children out, we would often be ridiculed. That was despicable.
I was only 5 when Ho Kuan-ren illegally searched my house with a search warrant showing someone else's address. I'm now 19. He's still abusing us. Why is such a prosecutor still at large? Where is justice?
I follow my Shifu to practice Qigong, not to cram for exams.
Why did Ho Kuan-ren unlawfully seize our academies? Where can I go? Where can my father go? Madam President, do you hear our voices? We've been abused by Prosecutor Ho Kuan-ren. Madam President, please uphold justice.
好甲三更一半暝，找无收，好嘿好。
24 years are not sure. Unconscionable government officials have kept abusing us. One day, I will make them pay.
My case has dragged on for 5 years. Moving through administrative litigation at court, but I lost my case each time.
I petitioned the Control Yuan and even the presidential office, but in vain. The then Deputy Finance Minister Zhang Shanhe said, if I don't punish you, you will collude with those heirs. Several times, I wanted to jump off my apartment building.
When I die, my son will continue the fight. When my son dies,
My grandson will continue the fight.
We have no place to live. He said he will extend the deadline by a month. He said if we don't move out before April 30, he will start compulsory enforcement. I feel this house is like being suddenly stolen.
I'm on the brink of death, but the government is still abusing me. Help me!
予我抓着放伊甘休，
The God of heaven, do you hear my plea? Please return justice to me.
A quarter of a century has passed. We could have accomplished a lot more and realized a lot more dreams, but our days and years have been wasted just because of Ho Kwan Ren.
I saw a streak of shadow in his eyes.
With conscience, we can save Taiwan.
So with that video, it's very hard not to feel the frustration that is going on in Taiwan. Tai Jimin is not the only case who's suffering injustice through taxation. As you saw through the video, a lot of people have problems with the tax bills that they receive. They try to appeal, but in the ineffective system, they are unable to receive the help that they need. Some suffered for long periods of time. Some even aren't able to see justice and they pass away before that. And so right now, Tai Jimin is really pushing for this reform, not just for Tai Jimin itself, but also for the whole entire Taiwan, for a better system completely for everyone. And so in the video, it was accompanied by the song, which is talking about a bird who is desperate, crying because the bird could not find his nest at night, being homeless. And it's really relatable at this moment because on August 21st in Taiwan, Tai Jimin's property was illegally auctioned again for the second time, with evidence that were thrown out in 2007 by the Supreme Court when they ruled Tai Jimin not guilty with no tax evasion, no violations of tax codes. However, the National Taxation Bureau continued to issue these tax bills asking Tai Jimin to pay the money, and now they have taken Tai Jimin's property. This is unacceptable as they are doing this through illegal means. Many experts have said that over the 24 years, the money and the time that has been spent in trying to fight for the justice has exceeded the amount of the tax bill of what was owed. But it's not about money, it's about the principle. If it's right, we will pay the tax bill. If it's wrong, the government should not be stealing people's property and assets. And so for 24 years, families have been torn apart because of the false portrayal of Tai Jimin on the media. Tai Jimin Dizi, who were children back when the case started, like the brothers and sisters in the video, even myself, are now young adults who speak their voices to fight for a better future for the next generation. The older generation fought for us for this false tax case for the majority of their lifetime, all for justice. And the Taiwanese government need to awaken and listen to their conscience, to do the right thing, fix their mistakes, because not only is this a breach of human rights, but also more specifically, it is the breach of the thought of conscience, religion, and belief. So the Taiwanese government has actually violated the 2 international covenants and the human rights and freedom of belief of Tai Jimin Shifu and Dizi, and destroyed the culture when they fabricated the Tai Jimin case. As you saw in the video, the prosecutor started the case by seeing a streak of shadow in someone's eye. And that's how the case started. Can you imagine living in a democratic country where you could get in trouble because a prosecutor looked you in the eye and saw something iffy? So this is what we're fighting for. We want the human rights. And with this, we actually like to call on the youth to share your thoughts and what is your call for the government about this case. And with that, we'd like to start with Andrea.
Thanks, Judy. So yeah, the tax case of Tai Jimin is just unjust. There's no other way to put it. Taiwan is a country that prides itself on democracy, and giving people the right to their own individuality, as well as listening to the voices of the people. But in this case, the idea of democracy is completely missing. And on top of all of this, a violation of the human rights of the citizens is clearly seen. To give my 2 cents to the Taiwanese government in order to ensure a continuation of respect from the rest of the world, I urge you to change the course of this unjust tax case. Tai Jimin is not a cram school. Tai Jimin is an ancient minpai. A cram school does not travel around the world spreading love and peace. In fact, Tai Jimin travels around the world showing everyone the traditions of our culture and showing everyone how great Taiwan is. If the Taiwanese government doesn't respect the organization that brings pride and glory to its country and instead violates the organization in every single way possible, who else is going to want to bring pride to Taiwan? If this tax case is not taken away, the respect and trust between the Taiwan people and the government will be gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. I really hope the government can preserve these cultures that are trying to bring happiness, good health to people of Taiwan and all over the world, in fact. So thank you. Next, we'd like to welcome Matthew.
Governments should operate in a way to maximize the transparency of their procedures for the benefit of people. As a youth, a very obvious and disturbing human rights violation is the Tai Jimin taxation issue that has been prolonged for over 24 years. Tai Jimin Qigong Academy is a cultural minpai that has thousands of years of history passed along from Shifu to Dizi. It is extremely common for Dizi to pay respect through red envelopes enclosed with money to symbolize their gratitude. It is infuriating to me that the government not only disrespects this cultural bonding by slandering that Tai Jimin is a cram school which takes people's money. The prosecutor illegally issued a taxation bill even though Tai Jimin won the judicial trial and proved their righteousness. Undoubtedly, this is a violation of the freedom of culture and belief. Now, the government is auctioning the properties of Tai Jimin using this fake taxation bill, which have been made up in the first place. I cannot quite understand how the whole government is allowing the Taxation Bureau and the Administrative Enforcement Agency to continue their auctioning process. This is an outrageous example of government corruption and exploitation of power. Innocent citizens are violated by the systemic terror simply due to their minority. In historical cases, corrupt governments often lead to socioeconomic instability and ultimately a downfall in the market, losing its stage among international competitors. Therefore, the continuation of government corruption, infringing laws, and violating human rights will indefinitely contribute to a systemic failure and causing Taiwan to lose its position as a role model of democracy and social equality. Thank you for listening.
As Matthew mentioned, that Tai Jimin is a menpai, not a cram school. And the biggest difference is when you go to a cram school, your teacher will tell you within a set amount of time, I will teach you this. I will make sure you're able to understand this and that. But in Tai Jimin, it is a traditional culture, a space where there is shifu and dizi. And between that, there is no commitment to what I'm going to teach you, for how long, and you're out of here. It's a lifelong relationship where shifu is like a father, like a teacher together. And for us in the culture, we give red envelopes to our parents to show appreciation. Does that mean my dad is my teacher? My mom is my teacher? So it's that type of tradition that we think that the government should really try to understand and appreciate. And it's what makes our country beautiful. So thank you, Matthew. And next, we'd like to go over to Mitchell.
Now I want to talk about the Tai Jimin case and how it has destroyed culture. In 1996, Prosecutor Ho issued a false tax bill against Tai Jimin because he believed that we were a cram school and that the red envelopes we gave to Shifu were tuition. We are not a cram school, and the envelopes we give to Shifu are gifts, and this is how we show appreciation in Dizi to Shifu culture. Prosecutor Ho try to use that against us. This is disrespect and destruction of our culture. The Ministry of Finance and Executive Enforcement Agency are also violating human rights by chasing Tai Jimin with a fake tax bill for 24 years and by illegally auctioning our property. This problem of unfair taxing in Taiwan can be solved if our President Tai, would listen to our voices and demands. We have 4 main demands. We demand that the Executive Enforcement Agency stop the forced auction of innocent people's property. Second, we demand that the Ministry of Finance to stop the issuing of illegal tax bills. Next, we demand that the Ministry of Justice punish the corrupt officials. Finally, we ask President Tai to stop this abuse of human rights and to save the people of Taiwan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mitchell. Yes, so like we mentioned earlier, Prosecutor Ho Kwan-ren is the one who actually started this case off of fake evidence and also witnesses that he called upon, who some haven't even taken step into Tai Jimin, trying to destroy the culture. And the Control Yuan actually has listed 8 major violations in the way that Prosecutor Ho Kwan-ren had dealt with the Tai Jimin case, yet he has received no punishment whatsoever. In fact, he is still serving the country. This is what we are having problems with, the government official who's able to abuse his power and get away with it. So imagine other people having to face what Prosecutor Ho Kwan-ren is able to do. So we hope that the government can actually see by the 8 violations and actually see that he gets punished or served for these things that he has done to the people. So thank you, Mitchell. And next we'd like to go over to Alan.
Hi, thank you, Judy, for the introduction. I'm going to be going to UC Davis in a few weeks, and I guess I would just like to start by sharing my perspective on this tax case that Tai Jimin has to go through, and perhaps the steps that needs to be taken in order to prevent this from happening in the future and to have progress in Taiwan and in the world. And it's like you see in the video, a prosecutor with malicious intentions and a verdict already in his mind before committing to a investigation, decides to fabricate evidence when there was no evidence to support his claim. And even though at that point, perhaps there was some major mistake that happened, they did not back down. They did not apologize. And in fact, as Judy mentioned, Prosecutor Ho is still an official and is still wielding tremendous power, even though he has been abusing it for so long. I think that one point that I would like to make is that, at least right now in a critical junction, it is not just it is not really just okay now to stay quiet about injustices that you face or that other people face, or be a bystander. Even though many people working in the Taiwanese government, I believe, are to be good people, because they are afraid and because perhaps they don't want any repercussions, they're not speaking out, or they're not using their authority or power to prevent some small percentage of government officials who are abusing their power. And at least in a democratic society, a government, in a sense, should be protecting people or groups of people from other groups or other people from violating on their rights. And the fact that when those rights are being clearly violated, not only is that coming from the government itself, but the people who are supposed to, again, protect us are bystanders to this and don't want anything to be a part of it. And I think that one thing that has to be done is that the government officials who have a conscience and have the courage to fix a wrong must stand out, must voice their own opinions and their voices, and as a collaborative effort to remove any sort of corruption, to remove people from power that, in a sense, are poisoning the system, a small percentage of people that can kidnap an entire government and lead to mass suffering. And I think one point that I would like to mention is that when we see like a case against human rights, perhaps we would think that it is clearly inevitable that, you know, over time these inevitable like social progress, social changes could improve, and it's kind of just a process that will inevitably happen. But if you really look back on history itself, not only have there been times of like massive plateaus of these social progresses, sometimes they're even backsliding. And the only time that we really see genuine change, whether it's a government that has been abusing its people, abusing human rights, to change for the better, to change for society and civilization as a whole, it has never been spontaneous for the most part from the government itself. It always required a genuinely united force, usually by a people or a population that continued to stand their ground, to fight for the rights, not only for themselves, but also for the people that surrounded them, the people that they cared for. And I think in the Tai Jimin case, it's pretty clear that perhaps we are also in this similar situation. It is not inevitable that Tai Jimin could have survived for 24 years in a tax case. It was because of the hard work of many different individuals and different people that have a conscience that wanted to do something not just for themselves, but for an entire organization, for the country, and for the world. And I think right now, it's not just, again, it's not just Tai Jimin that is suffering, as we've seen in the videos. Multiple other people who have been victims and are just, again, afraid to speak out are now able to speak out. And I think that, again, in order for Taiwan to be a genuine democracy, the government itself has to serve the people and to protect it from abuses of human rights from the government itself or from other groups. I would like to just end on, again, I think everything that ties this case together, or perhaps its solution, is that it has to start from the individual and the conscience from each individual. Government officials taking a step to assist Tai Jimin or help fight these injustices will know that they will perhaps suffer some retribution in some sense. But I think if everyone, the more and more people start to listen to that moral compass, to that conscience, that is the only time in which social change and progress could really continue forward and can really stay there, and to help not just a small group of people, but actually society and civilization and humanity as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for sharing. And as you mentioned, that we are not only calling out the false tax bills and false protocols that the Taiwanese government is following, we're also asking them and calling them to follow their conscience and do the right thing. And in a democracy, as you said, the government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. So as we begin to wrap up today's virtual meeting, I would like to thank you to the youth again for sharing your points of views. And for one last question, one quick round, I would like to ask everyone what they think makes a good government. And this can just be one sentence or phrase.
I think what makes a good government is transparency, like the ability for people to see what's going on behind the scenes and to get everything straightforward without any tricks, without any illusions. It's just really important.
I think that nothing's more important than the government hearing the people's voices.
And I'm just adding on to that, like hearing their voices and acting and truly like listening to them and trying to serve the people. and act in the best interest of people.
Exactly the same thought. I think it's very important for a government to have the best interest of the people in mind when making decisions.
Just a government that represents its people and not act for the betterment of the people within the government.
I believe a good government should establish justice and be willing to own up to and correct their own mistakes.
A government should be more selfless and to have the courage to correct their own mistakes or to help people in need.
Government should respect their people's decisions and opinions.
A good government should enforce fair laws and fair punishments and make sure that everyone working for the government has the people's best interests in mind, rather than someone who is greedy and selfish.
A good government recognizes mistakes and solves them. We often hear that learning from mistakes is the best way to learn. So when governments make mistakes, it is their responsibility to apologize and fix their actions.
I think a government should want to protect its people and will also act in the people's best interests.
I think a government should be responsive, reliable, transparent with its citizens, and just actively working to implement social and economic progress, as well as just, serving the public.
I think the government exists for the people, and while it should be strict, it also needs to be flexible.
I feel like the government should listen to the people.
Government should be transparent and have humility when facing its people.
Thank you to all the youth for sharing your words of what a government should do or look like. And we hope the government of Taiwan hears this as motivation and encouragement to be better. So thank you for participating in support of the International Day of Commemorating the Victims of Acts of Violence Based on Religion or Belief. With continuing acts of intolerance and violence based on religion or belief against individuals, it is unfortunate that Tai Jimin is one that is suffering this oppression in Taiwan right now. The youth of Tai Jimin today have spoke of beautiful things that they have gained from being in Tai Jimin, yet the government is trying to ruin this culture with unfair taxation. As Kenneth Jacobson, a professor of law at Temple University and advisor to former President Bill Clinton, said, in the Tai Jimin case, it's been determined that the taxes that they have attempted to be collected are improper. And this is disturbing because the continuation and perpetuation of injustice is as bad as commitment of that injustice in the first place. And that is what's happening here in the Tai Jimin tax case. So in Taiwan, the Taxation Bureau has actually corrected the 5 years tax claims against Tai Jimin to zero, except for the year 1992. And the NTB refuses to make it right based on the evidence that have been provided. And so we hope that what we have discussed here today serves as motivation for the government to improve, and that Taiwan becomes a true democratic country that is served for the people, by the people. And we hope that the government of Taiwan can truly practice justice and respect for human rights, starting with the Tai Jimin case. Correct your mistakes, allow for the beautiful cultures of Taiwan to flourish, allow the people of Taiwan to flourish. So once again, thank you for joining us today. You guys did a wonderful job. Thank you.